We are back for another episode here of the Climate Tech Inc. NFL Prediction Show. Cole McDaniel, Vince McKee back with you once again, and football season is obviously in full swing. Vince and I were talking off air here as we are down to the final weeks of the high school football regular season. Hard to believe already getting through the regular season and postseason right around the corner. Really right into the middle of the NFL season now to this point, and NBA basketball, coming back here just started this week. So, Vince, time is flying by as always. But I'll have you talk about as times are changing, the weather's changing. I'll have you talk about our sponsor before we talk about some football.
Well, I love the segue. We both got on the long sleeves and the collars up and everything. So definitely time for some cooler weather to come in. And if you're worried about that, don't be. Simply call Climate Tech Inc. The professionals over there have you covered. They handle everything from quality heating, air conditioning, ventilation services, full HVAC services for your comfort. Look them up today at climate-tech.com. Cole, as you said, I mean, what a time it is. What a great time of year. We are now, as I look at my clock here, about 9 days away from Halloween. I always say Halloween is kind of that first mile marker to kind of check our standings. Right now I'm up by 5. It took me to, staying up to almost 2 in the morning. It felt like on Monday night to just make sure Seattle got that last and 5th point for me. But it has been one tough start to this NFL season. I feel now we kind of know where everybody is. Things should settle down a bit, but very excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, um, to start off really interesting, of course, I picked the Browns, you picked the Miami Dolphins this past week. Tell you what, the Browns showed up defensively. The Dolphins, I am shocked that Mike McDaniel is still the head coach as of this point. I thought come Monday he would be gone. That is not the case at this point. And then it's going to be interesting to see if Tua ends up being their quarterback still long term, or if they're going to start to give Quinn Ewers a chance, who had just jumped Zach Wilson on the depth chart, and now he's the backup, only got a couple reps in that game. So that, of course, was interesting. I know we were different on our picks there. We were different on the Houston Seattle pick, and both teams played really poorly. Ultimately, Seattle, they should have won that game by more. That offensive line of Houston was atrocious, but the turnovers were very costly and kept the Houston Texans in that game. So really a ton of eye-opening storylines with some of the differences that we had in those in the games this past week. I took the Jets thinking that at some point they have to win, but they continue to lose, and that Jets team is in a world of hurt right now, and I think there's a good chance that some of their stars are going elsewhere. I know I sent you a picture of that I had seen an edit of Garrett Wilson, of course, in the Browns uniform, and I thought it looked so good. And that there's been a lot of talk around Northeast Ohio and around just the Browns fan base about Garrett Wilson potentially being available and the Cleveland Browns needing to pick him up. I would be all for that. I know we're going to talk the Browns later, but I am a huge Garrett Wilson fan. I think he is such a great wide receiver. It's just unfortunate for him. He hasn't really had great quarterback play in New York. Um, if he comes to Cleveland, I mean, he'd be by far and away wide receiver one. Jerry Jeudy doesn't even compare to the talent that Garrett Wilson has.
No, not even close. And the thing about Garrett Wilson, too, is he instantly can make a quarterback better. One thing the Browns don't have right now is any downfield threats besides Jerry Jeudy, who just can't seem to get open. And when he doesn't even catch the ball. So Garrett Wilson's the kind of guy who could definitely improve everybody around him, give your receiving room a little bit of credibility that it doesn't have right now. Justin Fields has had an awful year, and we could blame a million different reasons why. I'm not going to get into too much of it. But this wasn't the Justin Fields I've wanted to see for all these years. He definitely has regressed a little bit. Seems like he's holding on to the ball way too long and just has not looked good. So the Jets clearly at 0-7, worst record right now, at least in the NFL, won't be going anywhere this year. Who knows how desperate they get. Just to kind of touch on another point you made real quickly there with the Seahawks and the Texans. I mean, the Seahawks, I'm not going to say their record is a fraud. I mean, I picked them, But it's just you watch that game, and it's like if Houston had any kind of offensive line, they could have ran the ball at the goal line numerous times there to score touchdowns. Instead, they had to try to settle for passes, and really didn't work out until the very end. And by then, it was too late. Houston is just a hot mess right now. So Seattle, right place, right time. They're making significant strides in the NFC. You look at that division, and we'll be talking about everything tonight. But San Francisco 5-2, Seattle 5-2, the Rams 5-2, and the Arizona Cardinals looking to switch from Murray to Jacoby Brissett as they're 2-5. So how crazy is that? I mean, who would have had all of that on their bingo card when this started? But again, I mean, the quarterback play. You have the aging Matthew Stafford as the best quarterback in that division by far, and even that to me is a boat race. So very interesting to see how everything's going to play out in the NFC. And as I look over at the helmets, we have a heck of a week coming up as well.
Yeah, I think multiple teams on a bye this week, so not as many games to pick from. But we're going to jump right in. Start with Thursday night football as always, Vince, and it is the Los Angeles Chargers facing the Minnesota Vikings. And I think I can keep this pretty short and sweet. There's a much better football team in this game, and that is the Los Angeles Chargers. The only thing for them, run game. Again, haven't had Najee this year. Amarian Hampton, he's out. So they're really trying to rely on Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins. And is their run game as strong with those guys as it is what it could be? No, but ultimately Justin Herbert's a good quarterback. We've talked about it before. We think highly of Justin Herbert, and Keenan Allen clearly still has some more in the tank. And Quentin Johnson has been showing off his speed and improved hands and can make some big plays. And Lad McConkey, of course, is a good target. So you have three reliable targets out there. They're not having issues necessarily running the ball even without those stars. So I think there's a good chance that this could be a more defensive game. I mean, for some reason, even though I don't think there's as much talent as Minnesota would probably want on paper on their defense, Brian Flores does a pretty good job with his scheme. So as much as I've been critical of the talent they have, they've been able to put up some decent performances defensively. Don't get me wrong, they have a very good wide receiving room in Minnesota, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. But I just see this being a defensive game and the Los Angeles Chargers ultimately doing more. Give me the Chargers 23-14 and the Vikings again. They're still not as good as their record.
Last week's Thursday night football game was so exciting. Watched every minute of it, enjoyed a beer and wings, which I almost never do. Went out with a good buddy of mine, soaked it in. Great game with the Bengals and the Steelers. I don't think we get that again here. I have to agree with you. This is not exactly a marquee matchup. Chargers a much better team. They've had a buzz saw of a schedule through 7 games. The Vikings, not so much. The Vikings have played a lot of cupcakes. They gotten soft off of 3 wins. They're 3-3, but as Cole said, very fraudulent 3-3. I like Jordan Mason, like Justin Jefferson, but think about the big picture, guys. We talked about this. It's funny because I think we talked about this until like week 1 or 2, and I said, it's funny because Carson Wentz is going to come in. He might get them a few wins. Here we are. But at some point, they're going to have to go back to J.J. McCarthy, and he's already practicing. So next week or whenever they play that'd probably be next week then. Whenever they play their next game, after this one, they're going back to J.J. McCarthy as their starter. It's a sure thing. So they're going to be 3-4 by that point, and then he's going to take them right down the tube. So there was a lot of hype after their fast start. They had a big win on Monday Night Football to start the season, all that hype. But I think a lot of us saw this coming. Think back to Kirk Cousins a couple years ago. Maybe if he could have just stuck around there and they would have stayed the course, maybe if Sam Darnold had a second season with them. There's a lot of maybes here. But whatever the case may be, the only thing that's going to hold back the Chargers, again, as Cole said, would be no running game with all the injuries. We'll see how that plays out. Going with the Chargers here and kind of wondering, kind of glad J.K. Dobbins is not wearing a Chargers uniform this year, but he is rather wearing one of the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, and having a good year with the Denver
Mm-hmm.
Broncos. So,
Because I feel like Dobbins, I'm drawing a blank here, but didn't he start with the Chargers, went to the Ravens, then went to the Broncos, or was he never on the Chargers? I'm just somehow imagining that in my brain.
Ravens, Chargers, Broncos.
That's what it was. Thank you. Yeah, because he went there, and then Austin Eckler, and yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things with the Chargers. They should have kept Dobbins. They should have kept Dobbins.
They should have. And he
Hmm.
had a good year last year,
Yep.
until he got hurt, which is
Yeah.
which is the problem for Dobbins, is he has had a lot of injuries in his career so far. I mean, I think it was like a good first 6, 7, 8 weeks or whatever, and then they lost him for the second half of the season. So then he
Yeah.
became available, and Denver was a great landing spot for him, and now
Perfect landing spot.
we're right around the time where I think he got hurt again with the Chargers. Fingers crossed that that doesn't happen. I'd love to see him have a complete season. If there's anybody who deserves a complete season, it's Dobbins, because he hasn't had one in so long. I mean, he was good with the Ravens. He just couldn't stay
Yeah. Well,
healthy. And then ultimately they gave up on him and moved on to Derrick Henry. And hey, it last year worked out for them. Right now, it looks like Derrick Henry's on his final legs.
yeah, and if I could touch on Denver, which I'd never mind doing, I mean, Dobbins is a good 1-2 back, right?
Yeah,
So he could catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. No one's going to deny that. But mix him up with a guy like RJ Harvey, like they have been, and it's working. Think back to if it ever was him and Henry, that would have worked. Think all the way back to him and Eckler. I mean, he's not one of those guys, J.K. Dobbins, who's going to carry your team. He's just not. But he's a hell of a two back, meaning he could be the number one back in the formation, but he's one of two. So when I say two back, I mean part of a two-man backfield, basically. Broncos have that, and also he fits perfectly with the Sean Payton attack, right? Look what Sean Payton did all those years with Alvin Kamara. I'm not saying Dobbins is going to put up the kind of numbers Alvin Kamara did, but still, I love the system. It's the same reason why Bo Nix has benefited so well. It's just they're a good team, man. I mean, Cortland Sutton, he's nothing special. He already has almost 500 yards this year. So a lot of good things going on in that system. I mean, Cortland Sutton is the kind of guy that, again, you're not going to build a team around him, but he's sure reliable right now.
he's
That's my
but
Denver Broncos picks for the week.
he's by far been the wide receiver one for the Denver Broncos for quite a long time, though.
Yeah,
He's a very good receiver, and the thing is, his height and his ability with his catch radius is always a threat in the red zone. So he's a very, very good red zone wide receiver. And now, of the wide receiver ones on each team in the NFL, yeah, he probably comes in, later on the list of who you think of. But I think we can't discredit Cortland Sutton too much, because he's a guy who, when he's playing, he is by far and away Denver's best wide receiver. He, just like Dobbins, who you mentioned, has been somebody who's had issues with his injury history throughout his career. So, but when he's on the field, he's playing. Cortland Sutton is a very good player, and that size has been helpful for any quarterback that's been under center and throwing the ball in Denver.
no, absolutely. And you look at their schedule, they're playing an NFC East team for the third time in the last 4 weeks this coming weekend against the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys could beat them because the Cowboys have that kind of offense. But if it's going to be a defensive battle, the Broncos are going to win by a landslide because the Broncos defense is about 5 times better than the Cowboys defense. So, I like the chances. The fact that Denver could quite possibly be 6-2 after this week and then going in to play the Houston Texans, just kind of a wild scenario. I don't think a lot of us saw coming. So even though we started off by talking about the Chargers, I couldn't help but mention J.K. Dobbins, and yeah, no doubt about it. So there you go. There's a
So,
transition for you.
so we're both on the same page with Thursday night. For Sunday night, we turn to the Pittsburgh Steelers playing host to the Green Bay Packers. And
Okay,
Vince, who do you think wins this one? Packers on the road or Steelers at home?
I have no idea. So I'm going with the Packers, and here's the crazy thing about this game. Okay, they're 4-1-1, and they haven't looked that impressive outside of week two. So they started. I mean, back-to-back weeks they rolled teams, just smashed them. Week three, they stubbed their toe against Cleveland. Then they have a bye. They play on Sunday night, and they have a tie against the Cowboys. it has just been a strange, strange run for the Packers. They barely beat the Bengals. I mean, they beat the Bengals by a touchdown, but that game was mighty close when Joe Flacco was in Cincinnati Bengal for all of about 4.5 days. So again, we're both sold pretty high on the Packers. I know they were your Super Bowl pick in the NFC, them and the Ravens. Still very possible. But man, something with Green Bay. It's getting interesting that preseason I would have looked at this game and I said, yeah, Green Bay by 3 touchdowns, they should blow them out. But I'm not so sure. Pittsburgh's coming off a loss. They're going to be angry with the way they lost to Cincinnati. You don't think Tomlin and Rodgers are going to lose 2 in a row. And the Packers, I'll stand behind that comment again, have not looked that dominant in the last 3 weeks. So this is going to be real interesting. You mix in the Aaron Rodgers saga behind all of it. I don't know, man. Sometimes I got to throw my hands up. Going to go with the Packers, though. Not going to say it's a bounce back win because they haven't lost in several weeks, but want them to look good, want them to look dominant. And Pittsburgh, sorry, at 4-2, I still don't think they're that good. There's nothing about the Pittsburgh Steelers that makes me say, wow. There just isn't. So going with the Packers, we'd like to see them win by about 2 touchdowns and get that stride back.
No, the Pittsburgh Steelers are extraordinarily average. And
Yes.
but the division fell apart and it opened up for an average to slightly above average team to make their way to the postseason as the division winner, not just fighting for a wild card spot, where you get some of those average to a little bit above average teams a lot of times fighting for a wild card spot, trying to sneak in. They might just miss, or they might get the seventh seed or the sixth seed. Um, this is a team, the Steelers team, that probably should be a wild card team, but they're not going to be. They're going to end up winning this division because of everything else that has happened around them with the Ravens and the Bengals and the Browns. So, that being said, credit to their defense. They have a very strong defense. We've said that for a long time. Their defense is the heartbeat of that team. They're strong. Offensively, I'm still pretty unmoved. I think Aaron Rodgers, he's obviously playing better now than he did last year with the New York Jets. So that's good news for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But is Aaron Rodgers, at 41 years old, had the Achilles injury 2 years ago? Is Aaron Rodgers somebody who's going to go out there and single-handedly take over the game? No, he's not at that point of his career. This isn't Aaron Rodgers of, 5 years ago or 10 years ago. This isn't that Aaron Rodgers. So he really needs the defense to step up and play well. And
Yep.
and ultimately they need to make sure that they have a pretty balanced attack. And the nice thing for him with DK Metcalf is they haven't had a whole lot of great wide receiver help this year. Um, Truthfully, them getting rid of George Pickens is still somewhat of a head scratcher. Like they could have honestly kept him. So I'm not too impressed with the wide receivers aside from DK. But with DK's size and speed, sometimes you just see Aaron Rodgers again just floated up in his general vicinity down the sideline and let DK go and get it. And he is. And so that's um a good like flotation device type of a thing where when in doubt just toss it up to DK. But the thing that works out is they do have several good tight ends and he's finding the tight ends. Pat Fryermuth finally woke up and finally had a really good game after being quiet to the start of the season. But between Fryermuth and Jonnu Smith, who Arthur Smith loves, and Darnell Washington, who's 300 pounds and is getting involved in these heavy blocking sets. And then they still have Connor Hayward, who plays some tight end and fullback and is their fourth guy. They've really figured out how to incorporate those tight ends, not only just as giving Rodgers some extra weapons to throw to, but putting them in there to help block and allowing Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell, who are both playing pretty well. Of course, Warren was hurt recently, but he's back, and his bowling ball style of how he runs has really allowed him to take over that number one role and be effective. So they're doing enough offensively, Vince, but again, I still think it's very average. So their defense is great, offense is average. The Green Bay Packers are the better football team. I firmly believe that. Have they fully hit their rhythm to where they're dominating? No. Does every team that goes on and makes it to the Super Bowl just dominate all season long? No, it's the NFL, right? The best teams find ways just to win games. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs the last couple years. How many nail biter like close games should they have lost but they ended up winning? And everybody's complaining about the officials or complaining about a couple things that went their way and they won. Yeah, I mean, they just find ways to win and things fall in their favor and they get the fortune. So Green Bay could literally skate by the entire season, win by the skin of their teeth every single week until the end of the year, and that might be the momentum they need to then pick up some steam when it really matters when it comes to the postseason. So I think that Packers defense is good. As good as the Steelers defense is, I think the Packers defense could rival the Steelers defense this season. The rotation that they have at edge rusher between Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness and really all those names, I think they have a good rotation. I think overall they can make an impact defensively. I think offensively, Jordan Love does a good job spreading that football around the field, and Josh Jacobs is a very good back. So I just think that this Packers team in a decently close ball game, 30 to 21, I think they win this game and they again prove what we're both saying and really in agreement on the Packers and the Steelers.
I think Pittsburgh has a chance anytime, TJ Watt gets loose on defense and can become a game changer. No one's going to deny that fact. Same with Rodgers. Rodgers might have a game where he just goes out and slings it all over the place. But if you're playing a well-coached opponent like you are with Green Bay, shouldn't be making, enough mistakes to let you slide by. The only thing I would disagree with you on, and you're going to think I'm crazy, and I'm sure people are going to think I'm crazy, but when you really look at the records, Cincinnati truly only has one less victory than Pittsburgh. Baltimore, we're going to see what happens this week. If Baltimore beats the Bears, maybe they're back. If they lose this week, they're done and they're playing for a draft pick. But you never know what kind of run they could go on. So truly, I mean, I really don't think this division is locked up for Pittsburgh. I think far from it, quite frankly.
Okay. We'll see.
Yep.
We'll see. I know for sure we're going to be talking about two more of those games. Um, one game I don't think we're probably neither of us are probably talking much about the Bengals and Jets this week. I'll say this, I'm sure we both picked the Bengals, but um,
Yep.
I mean, yeah, the Bengals are a game behind. Sure, they beat the Steelers, but they stink. The Cincinnati Bengals stink. I mean, their defense is maybe slightly better than last year.
Ain't that bad.
It's not a very good defense. And the Joe Flacco, little bit of a spark here right now. Sure, he's better than Jake Browning. He's just throwing it up in the area of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and hoping for the best. He knows that he has really good wide receivers on the outside. He's like, as long as he throws a pretty football, right? That's something we've said about Joe Flacco. His tight spiral it's beautiful when that football leaves his hand. But he's just put it in the direction of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, hoping for the best there. And Chase Brown hasn't really even had room to run this year because their offensive line is so bad in run blocking. Like there's no space for him to run at all. So that Bengals team really is not that good. I said that the Vikings are frauds with their record. I would argue that the Cincinnati Bengals are even larger frauds with their
Yeah, they should
record
probably have
right
four or
now.
five wins. I'd agree with that. I think Cincinnati should have at least 4 or 5 wins.
All season.
No, to this point in the season.
No, I think the Bengals are definitely
All right.
frauds.
I don't know. I mean, they got spanked a few weeks ago with Jake Browning. I mean, absolutely destroyed. So I don't know. I don't see Pittsburgh boat racing this division. And I'm telling you right now, I picked Baltimore. I know you said you're probably going to talk about that later as your upset pick with Chicago, but I think Baltimore, if they win this week, they might be back. This might be the win they need. So I'm not counting Baltimore or Cincinnati out just yet. I'm counting Cleveland out because they're one of the worst teams in the NFL, maybe the worst. But the thing with Cleveland, they're done. But Cincinnati and Baltimore, like I said, we're going to go week by week with them for a bit.
Okay. We need to talk about Monday Night Football, then we can come back to the AFC North because we got some more things to say about that. But um, let's keep this short and sweet.
Oh,
Kansas City Chiefs, the Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels, definitely a tough season injury wise for him. The Kansas City Chiefs, they now have a winning record once again. They're 4-3. Things are looking up. You know, everything's starting to look sunny again in Kansas City, and it will continue to look that way. The Kansas City Chiefs, they'll roll in this game 35-17. I don't see any other reason to not believe that. The Washington Commanders, just misfortunes. They're not going to live up to potential expectations coming into this year. Maybe can make a wild card, but they're going to need Jaden Daniels healthy to do that. So could be a very disappointing season for a team that we've talked about has sold out with, especially on defense, with a lot of the older veterans, that it's obvious that they felt like they had a chance to make a run. And it's like, we've got a couple year window. They're probably going to burn a year here this year. But the Kansas City Chiefs, they're going to remain in the hunt in the AFC. And it's going to be a matter of who's going to take them down. But um, this week, again, I think they improved their record.
Kansas City is looking pretty good, no doubt about it. They needed a huge victory, a no doubt about it shot over the Raiders, and they got it 31 nothing. That one was over quickly. But I'll say this. You mentioned it a few weeks ago when you said, listen, Jaden Daniels being out is not ideal for the Commanders, but Marcus Mariota is actually a pretty good backup for him because of the system that they run.
Right.
He might be able to hold it together. You picked him that week. I picked against him. You were right that week. But in the long scheme of things, there's a reason why Marcus Mariota is not a full-time starting quarterback in the NFL after several chances that he's already had with several teams.
Yeah.
That kind of tells you all you need to know. Washington very snake bit this year. And now I'm starting to wonder, I made a prediction last year on draft night or 2 years ago, whatever it would have been. And I said, hey, I think Drake May might be the best quarterback to come out of this class. Clearly, we have a lot of time, but right now, I'll say it again. If you were to stick a gun to my head and say, which quarterback do you want from this class? Again, I'm probably going to say Drake May or Bo Nix. And when you look at it right now, as good as Jaden Daniels was to start the season last year, and he was pretty sharp those first probably 10 to 12 weeks. Since then, I'm not overly impressed. Now he shows that he can't stay healthy. His second injury already this season, starting to make you wonder a little bit. All that being said, I agree with Cole. This pick for me is pretty easy. Nothing like last Monday night where I stayed up, like I said, well past 1:30 in the morning. This one should be over quickly, going with the Chiefs.
So, speaking of why you stayed up, Vince, you stayed up for that Texans Seahawks game. We're going to talk about our upset picks. I was looking down the list of games. I think there's a lot of blowouts potentially
Yep.
this week. I think there's a ton of lopsided matchups. I mean, the Falcons Dolphins should be lopsided for the Falcons. Bills Panthers should be the Bills. You never know with a division game, but I still think the Eagles should dominate the Giants, especially after losing to them here recently. I think it's an opportunity to bounce back and get revenge. Buccaneers Saints, that should be a blowout. Colts Titans at this point. Titans aren't good. Colts are pretty good. I think there's a ton of games where I'm like blowouts down the list. If there's anything where I'm like Vince McKee probably picked the underdog, I think it's probably the San Francisco 49ers over the Houston Texans. Is that your upset pick?
Correct. So I had two that I was boiling them down to, actually three, Denver and Dallas. I went with Denver strictly because they have the better defense. I actually think Cowboys have the better offense. I love that Cowboys offense. I'm a huge Dak guy. I'm a huge Javante Williams guy. I'm a huge CeeDee Lamb guy. I mean, George Pickens ain't bad. I very much love that Cowboys offense. Problem is, they have no defense, right? So because of that, and because I love the Denver Broncos, I just couldn't do it. One with the favorite, one with Denver. Then it was down between San Francisco and Houston, and Baltimore and Chicago. So for me, the Baltimore Chicago game, I had picked. How did I have this listed? Yeah, so I had Chicago picked as of this morning, and then two things changed, which made me switch it to Baltimore. Number one, Lamar Jackson is now supposed to play. He was practicing. They're projecting him to play this weekend. That switched it. That was one of the reasons. The other reason, I said, well, that's a problem because that is the only upset I feel really good about. I think Baltimore would be my upset special. I'm sorry, Chicago could be my upset special. But then I looked at it. I'm like, well, wait a second. I'm like, San Francisco, Houston. I'm like, how in the heck is San Francisco a 1.5 underdog at Houston, a team that looked atrocious on Monday night? Just atrocious. No offensive line, can't run the ball, terribly coached, penalties galore, can't take advantage of penalties, can't take advantage of turnovers. Had all these ways to win on Monday night and just never got it together. So I was like, you know what? San Francisco, I keep picking against San Francisco, I keep losing. I pick against San Francisco, I lose. I pick against San Francisco, I lose. They got 5 wins this year, San Francisco. I think I've picked against them at least 3 times, if not 4, in those 5 victories. So I said, you know what? The hell with it. I'm going to buy into the San Francisco team. I know they're injured. I know they're banged up. I know how in the world they're winning these games. I don't know how, but out of all the upsets, yeah, you called it, Cole. I took San Francisco over Houston as my official upset pick, and I owe it to staying up on Monday night and watching that game and seeing just how flipping terrible the Texans were. San Francisco locked in upset pick. I don't care if it's Brock Purdy starting. I don't care if it's Mac Jones starting. The fact that they got C-Mac running the ball, they have a way to win. Robert Saleh is coaching his butt off. I feel like Robert Saleh's coaching defense right now with the biggest chip on his shoulder he's probably ever had in his life, trying to prove everybody wrong that stint with the Jets was a fluke. They got a lot to win here. Sticking with San Francisco this week as the official upset pick.
Well, I also watched that game. So for me to watch that, see how bad the Houston Texans looked, then I must be completely insane to take the Houston Texans in this game, but I am. That San Francisco 49ers team, they're so banged up. They've got a ton of rookies playing on defense. They're somehow getting these wins. Christian McCaffrey he's one of the league leaders in the catches right now. So it's a whole list of like the top tens, like wide receivers, and then a running back in Christian McCaffrey, right? Again, it's just not sustainable for him to have to just carry the load. And I think this Houston Texans defense is good. They kept their team in the game. They were forcing turnovers. That's considering your offense has an offensive line that can't block anybody. You could throw your 90-year-old grandma out there and she still might sack CJ Stroud at this point because that offensive line is horrible. But there's just something about this game where I think the Houston Texans might be able to come back, bounce back. If there's a good team to do it against,
Right.
it's against this Houston it's against the San Francisco 49ers team that is banged up, that has all these injuries. So at home, coming back after having a rough offensive performance, I think this is going to be a defensive game. I really do. You just need to slow down McCaffrey enough. You're not going to stop him completely, but because of the score that I think this could be, this is why I took the Texans 19 to 18. I don't know if anybody puts up over 20 points in this game, and that allows Houston to potentially win this.
Well, it's going to be a low scoring game, no doubt about it. Neither team has the kind of offense that I would fear right about now. So I do agree with you. It's going to be a low scoring game. Again, I'm sticking with San Francisco. I'm guessing your upset pick is going to be Chicago and Baltimore, so I'll let you talk about them in a second. But here's the thing, too. You mentioned another thing that I disagreed with, which I usually don't do. We usually agree on a lot. I don't think Buffalo is going to blow out Carolina by any stretch. Carolina's playing the best damn football they have probably since Jake Delhome's been the quarterback there. I mean, something has lit into Carolina. Three straight wins.
Cam
They're
Newton,
playing.
the Cam Newton
Oh yeah, I
era.
forgot about Cam Newton. My bad. I couldn't stand him. I'm sorry. I forgot they even went to the Super Bowl with that guy. And Denver destroyed him. But not a Cam Newton fan to say the least. Anyway, a story for a different day. Yeah, totally forgot about him. But regardless, they're playing the best they have in probably about 10 years. At least since my daughter Madeline's been alive. So 9 years. And here's the thing, guys. Buffalo isn't nearly as impressive as we thought they were going to be. They're winning, but a few of these wins they've just really kind of skirted by. Think Buffalo's going to win that game, but I don't think that's going to be a blowout. The other one that is hilarious to me is Miami at Atlanta. Atlanta stunk. There were two football games where actually three, because the Browns game, but two other games where I literally watched every single second of, and one of the other ones was Atlanta. So when Atlanta lost on what would have been Sunday night to the 49ers, God, did they look bad. And they had so many possessions in the second half on the opposite side of the 50, couldn't do anything with it. Then Michael Penix Jr. gets hurt at the end of the game. I don't know if you saw that, but he got his thigh completely destroyed, right? Even if he plays, he's going to be hobbling. But my God, they're playing the Dolphins. I don't know if I've seen a worse team than the Dolphins, right? So, Atlanta's probably going to win that game by forfeit. Will it be a blowout? Who knows? But again, when I look at the schedule, I think, well, I don't think Carolina's going to get blown out. I think Buffalo's going to win. And at the same time, I don't think Atlanta, if they play as crappy as they did against the 49ers, even against Miami, I don't know if they're going to win with a blowout. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But I am very interested to hear why you are taking Chicago over Baltimore, because I have to believe that is your upside pick.
That it is. I am taking the Chicago Bears over the Baltimore Ravens. Are the
It was
Chicago
mine until about
Bears,
6 hours ago. But yeah,
yeah, are the Chicago Bears that good of a football team where they should then have 5 wins already on the season?
no.
No, absolutely not. But this Baltimore team, obliterated with injuries, only have 1 win so far this year. And even before they had the injuries they got obliterated by, they got smoked by the Kansas City Chiefs. And Lamar Jackson got hurt, was out for a little bit, so made it definitely look like it actually was a legitimate injury, even though I question it because it somewhat did look like he just quit on his team. But regardless, it was a Baltimore Ravens team that they didn't look quite as impressive to start the year as what I would have thought. And I think what happened to week one, they should have won that game. It was a slugfest with the Buffalo Bills, and then just gut wrenching to squander that lead and to have Derrick Henry fumble the football and give the Bills the opportunities. It was a weird gut punch for week one, where it was like I think they were reeling a little bit from that. So this Baltimore team's been headed down a bad path. Um, if Lamar Jackson's coming back and he's playing and the team starts to get a little bit healthy, do they have the talent to win football games and potentially try to make a run? I do, but I don't think their heads are in it, really. I think this is potentially a situation where Baltimore's in a spot where Baltimore's typically not in. They're always competing. They're always, making a run for the postseason. Um, You're looking at a team that when this roster's healthy, this is a top five roster in the NFL, in my opinion. But you're eyeing a top 10 pick right now. And that's got to be so tempting knowing that, hey, we could tank this season, not blow up the roster, get a top 10 pick, add a generational talent to an already stupid good roster, and let's make a run at the Super Bowl next year. Nobody fully, I know it's risky because, like, ownership, they want to win, fans, they want to win. Right. So you put your neck out on the line if you're a GM, if you're a coach and you do that type of thing. But if there's anybody that has cushion room to maybe do something like this for a year and be okay, it's the Ravens. I mean, they've had so much success for so long. Would you be like, oh, John Harbaugh's gone. He doesn't have it anymore. Knowing the circumstances and knowing how good he is, I would think, hey, John Harbaugh's still a good coach. We can bring him back next year with a loaded roster, and we're going to be right back there competing. This is an anomaly. This is a one-off scenario. So I don't know. Players don't really necessarily fully give up to tank, but I just don't think things are going the Baltimore Ravens way right now. So give me the Chicago Bears 24 to 16, and I think this would be the final nail in the coffin to where the Baltimore Ravens, we can give up on the conversation of them making a run. And Vince, you said that the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I want to come back to this, you said the Pittsburgh Steelers weren't going to run away with this division. This isn't in the bag. They don't, it's not at this point. It 100% is in the bag because
Ah,
there's only one team that can run them down right now, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. When they're healthy, they have the talent to do so, but they've got a lot of ground to make up. And if they fall this week, then that's it. And the Cincinnati Bengals aren't doing it. They're not good enough. I don't care if Joe
we're
Flacco
about to be four
catches.
and four.
Yeah,
The Bengals are about to be 4-4. We'll go ahead.
if Joe Flacco catches, a little bit of a spark, okay, great, right? Little Joe Flacco mania. But their offensive line's not good, and he doesn't have any mobility. So why do I think that it's going to be a whole lot better there in Cincinnati than it was in Cleveland? It's going to be a little bit better because he's got some better wide receivers to throw the football to, but he's got to have time to throw the football. So we'll see if that continues. I'm not sure if it will. Cincinnati's toast.
Why
Cleveland
do you
Browns are
go right
toast.
back to it
The
again?
Baltimore Ravens are toast. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the only team that's really even got a shot in that division. And it was over last week. It's over this week, and it's continually over the rest of the season.
The fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win the division again and this time by default just turns my stomach. So we will see how that plays out. I gotta say something here, because I really didn't talk about it much, and I do want to talk about the Bears for a second. I mean, how crazy is this? After week two, when they got blown out by the Lions, everybody's ready to run Ben Johnson out of town. He's the laughingstock in the NFL. All these things. That's why he's only a coordinator. I mean, if you are right and they win again, that's five straight victories after the Lions absolutely smoked them. I mean, what a turnaround that is in a short amount of time. Again, I agree with you. I'm not a huge Bears fan. I'm not sold on them by any stretch. But if you're right, they're about to be 5-2. And, who would have thought this now late in the season, coming semi near the midway point, you'd have the Bears at 5-2, and you'd have the Washington Commanders about to become 3-5 after this season. So, or after this week. So a few kooky things going on in NFC to say the least. But, I'll double down on what I said as well. If Lamar Jackson comes back this week and plays and he's healthy and they give full effort, I just think they're the better football team. The only other thing I'll say is Zay Flowers is not a number one receiver. He's definitely a number two. So if again the Ravens pick even top eight, they're going receiver with that first pick. And I mean, think about how deadly that could be next year.
I don't know. I don't know. I think Zay Flowers. I
It's
think
number two.
Zay Flowers has the talent to be a number one, but he's not your X receiver on the outside. He's more of a slot.
Small.
He's a slot type of guy, right? Where he's so dangerous after the catch. Now he can be your number one. I really think he has the talent to be your number one. Um, there's nothing wrong sometimes with a slot guy being your number one target. You just have to have like really good outside weapons that offer size or offer like something different. I think DeAndre Hopkins still has good hands, but he's not like what he was years ago. Rashad Bateman hasn't quite ever lived up to that level. So they are missing like a really good outside in his prime or young type of talent. That would really complement Zay Flowers. So it'd be nice to see them do that, at least from a Baltimore Ravens standpoint. But uh, again, don't be shocked if they get a top 10 pick. It's going to be for all the Ohio State fans out there. Just know there's a good chance that one of your defensive studs ends up on the Baltimore Ravens. You can see them get an Arval Reese at linebacker, or Caleb Downs at safety. Just really like dumb, good talent with elite athleticism to add to the Baltimore Ravens defense that has not, I know that the injuries hurt, but has not lived up to what they are on paper this year. So I actually think they'd probably look to the defensive side before the offensive side because that's kind of how Baltimore's mentality is, but also because that's really been their biggest issue this year. So I think they would actually go defense.
We shall see, my friend. I mean, and I don't want to rush away the rest of the year, but Lord knows we'll be breaking down draft in a matter of about 90 days. How scary is that?
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, no, we would be talking draft before too long, but um, don't be shocked either. I know we're about to talk about the Cleveland Browns. Don't be shocked if the Baltimore Ravens have an earlier pick than the Cleveland Browns.
We'll see.
So,
I mean, overall, though,
a
you
lot
want to say
hinges on this
Chicago's
week.
your upset, huh?
A lot hinges on this week.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton that does, and we're going to touch on the Browns here in a second. But it's just crazy to think that the Browns, they're definitely not tanking. I mean, they're trying their hardest, but having a defense as good as they do, and the fact that they're 2-5, it's they're more than a few tweaks away on offense. Where Baltimore at the same time is maybe one tweak away from being unstoppable. How scary is that? Looking at a 1-5 team and thinking, man, tank, get one extra player, and they might not be able to get stopped.
It's
Crazy.
it it's insane. It is nuts, but sometimes there are weird seasons like that with injuries that can unravel a season for a team that the season shouldn't be unraveled for. This is a potentially Super Bowl caliber team that's just not living up to expectations. They add a piece or two, and they're right back there. So it is nuts. So we're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns though here, going up against the New England Patriots. Cleveland Browns team that they're not tanking. Vince said it. I'm on the same page. I don't. They're not
Mm.
playing to tank. They're playing to win right now. Now, I guess playing to win in a
It doesn't
Cleveland
matter.
Browns Kevin Stefanski perspective is a little different than most coaches because he plays not to lose. I definitely said plenty about that the other week, and you did too about the conservative calling and playing scared with the lead. That being said, I mean that Miami Dolphins team, I know that you had the rain, you had the weather, that with the wind that really helped you out, but because it came down to you had a much better defense than the Miami Dolphins do. You forced plenty of Tua turnovers, and it resulted in good field position, and Quinshon Judkins just proved that he is a complete beast. And for all the people who said that getting rid of Nick Chubb was a terrible decision, tell you what, it looks really good with Quinshon Judkins looking explosive and scoring 3 touchdowns. And actually, at the moment, because Ashton Genty hasn't really had a whole lot of offensive help, and his blocking opening up holes for him hasn't been great. At least the Browns' run blocking scheme has been pretty good, and it's given Quinshon Judkins some room to run. Now he's had a lot of yards after contact, but he's easily looked like the best rookie running back so far this year. And he had one less game played so far compared to all the others, and his stats have been, better or rivaling a lot of the others. So, that being said, this Browns team defensively, I think there's belief that they're still good, that they can get pressure on a quarterback, that, Carson Schwarzenegger and Devin Bush have been playing well at the linebacker spots. And, in the secondary, the addition of Tyson Campbell is he's a really good scheme fit. I think that is probably improvement from Greg Newsome, who's probably more of I liked him as a nickel, and I think he's very good in zone. But on the outside, playing more of a man-to-man role, Tyson Campbell certainly fits the Brown scheme a little bit better. So I think across the board, defensively, there's belief. There's belief offensively in what the Browns have, at least running back wise. And with the tight ends, and I think it's obvious Kevin Stefanski knows he's probably playing for his job a little bit this year. So I think they're trying to go out there and they are legitimately trying to win. So don't be surprised. This Browns team, I know coming into the year I thought 3-4. Excuse me, 3 or 4 wins, but it might work out with their schedule and what else is happening around them in the AFC that they might actually win 6 or 7. Now, the offense is going to have to pick it up a little bit. They could win this game, Vince. They really could. This is a Patriots team that is a playoff caliber team. They have a really easy schedule right now. Like their next bunch of weeks are against teams that have 1 and 2 wins on the season. But this Browns defense, if they show up and make it difficult on Drake May and that running back room where Ramondre Stevenson had a good bounce back week last week, but he's had a rough season so far. Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins were great at Ohio State running the ball together, but they're not giving Henderson the football. And
Nope.
when they're giving him the football, they're having him run it right up the gut and not actually use his explosiveness, you know, getting out around the edge and they're not using him in the passing game as much. I mean, he is an explosive running back, so I'm disappointed with how he's being utilized. So I think as good as that Patriots team is with Mike Vrabel, and they have a new mentality and a new intensity, and I think their defense is good enough to win them some tougher games, and their offense with Drake May has been good enough. They're still not great. This is not a great team by any means, but they have an excellent schedule ahead of them to allow them to keep winning games and make it to the postseason. But they won't make it past the wild card round. So could the Browns catch them by surprise this week? They absolutely could. 100% could win these games. But for some reason, Cleveland, even when they should beat the Patriots, I've seen it time and time and time again, they don't. They struggle with New England. So for that reason, give me New England 20-13 low scoring ball game.
So I read a really fun article this past week about the last time the Cleveland Browns won in New England. So we're not talking about some of the victories they've had here in Cleveland, which we've had a few over the years, but at New England, the last time the Browns came away a winner was 1992 with second-year head coach Bill Belichick, Mike Tomczak at the helm at quarterback for the injured Bernie Kosar. That and the fourth grade Vince McKee. That is how long that has been. So 92, actually 92 I would have been in the fifth grade, but regardless, that's how long that would have been, right? Um, I agree with a lot of things Cole said just now too. It's really weird their lack of use of Henderson, and when they do use him, the plays they're calling for him, kind of strange there because you already know what you're going to get out of Stevenson. You've already seen it, right? So you kind of know where that ceiling is. Now you got a guy who's a rookie in Henderson. Why not try a few things? So kind of surprising there because how much fun would this game have been with those two guys going at it with him and Judkins, who, by the way, did not have nearly as good of a game as people think he did. If you were to take away the one touchdown run he had of 46 yards, he actually averaged 1.5 yards per carry last week. They shut the Miami Dolphins of all teams shut him down with the exception of one run, which is just wild to think. But again, that's not because the Miami Dolphins are good. It's because the Cleveland Browns may be one of the worst teams in NFL history as this season continues to play out on the offensive side of the ball. So, as Cole said, does Drake May and the Patriots do a ton to impress you on offense right now? No. Will the Browns defense more than likely keep them in this game for at least a half? Absolutely, they will. But the thing about it is, the Browns, they can't score. They can't unless the Miami Dolphins showed you how the Browns can score points, defensive touchdowns, turnovers on kickoffs, interceptions inside your own 10. I mean, that's 21 points you're not getting anywhere else, right? You take that 21 off the board, you have a guy break a 46-yard run, there's your 28 out of your 31 points right there, handed to you on a silver platter. Miami Dolphins, I don't know if I've ever seen a team play that bad. Sorry, but it's the truth. I would love to sit here. Cole's over there talking about the Browns are going to win 6 or 7 games. God, that'd be amazing if that happened. I don't see it. This team on offense, they're so bad, it's not even funny. Judkins gives you some hope. We say it every single week. Harold Fanning Jr. gives you some hope. We say it every single week. And we like how Dylan Gabriel is safe with the ball. We say it every single week. Outside of those three guys, they're dog trash. This is one of the worst offenses I've ever seen in my life. And I do believe that is what causes Kevin Stefanski his job. You want to talk about Njoku? Hey, maybe he'll come back healthy this week and tear it up. I don't know what happened to that guy. He's been on about 50 pounds. Look at him out there. He looks fat, he looks old, he looks slow. And when he has the ball thrown to him, he drops it. It is so frustrating to watch the Browns play offense this season. It's just terrible, terrible. They'll probably get a win against the Jets. I mean, their over under this year was 3.5. 3.5. I've never really talked about gambling on the show. I threw $100 on them. I didn't care because I thought to myself before the season starts, there's no way they're going to lose. Or there's no way they can't win at least 4 games. I'm starting a little bit nervous with that prediction. 2 wins in, Packers handing them a win. They still got to play the Bengals. They're probably going to smoke them. Joe Flacco. If the Bengals win big that game, Joe Flacco throws for 4 or 5 touchdown passes. Stefanski's fired the next day. I don't even know if they let him on the plane ride home. We'll get to that game later this season. No, they're heading into a bye week. So Cole, I'm going to wrap it up like this because this has been an extremely long episode. If the Patriots do smoke the Browns, I mean, I'm talking if the Patriots win by 4 or 5 touchdowns and Mike Vrabel wants to make a point as to why in the world did you never even give me a chance or an interview or even discuss the possibility of him replacing Stefanski. So let's say that happens. Let's say they absolutely smoke them. What are the chances of Stefanski getting fired during the bye week, possibly Andrew Berry getting fired during the bye week, and then they come back out for the next game with Shedeur Sanders under center?
Here's what would be so stupid about that. Andrew Berry has just had his best draft.
Yep.
He has had his
That
Tyson
was
Campbell
phenomenal.
trade
Yeah.
great so far.
Yep.
Andrew Berry is on a hot streak at the moment.
Now you're gonna fire him because of this.
You cannot fire Andrew Berry when he's on a hot streak, and everybody that he is bringing in at the moment, all these rookies, everything he's done in the last 9 months is hitting. It's working. And to get something for 40-year-old Joe Flacco, love it, right? To be able to move up around with a draft pick by giving the Cincinnati Bengals a 40-year-old quarterback, fantastic, right? So I can't say a bad thing about what Andrew Berry's doing right this second. Can I about some things in the past? Sure. But right now, no. Kevin Stefanski, on the other hand, I mean, I could go either way, right? I could see bringing him back and with some improvements and stuff, they could take some strides. I think he's somebody again who could be a good head coach as long as he's not the play caller, right? But you need to bring in somebody who is a little less conservative than him, still believes in the power running system, right? And we need a revamp of the offensive line. We would need like a Carnell Tate or a star wide receiver out wide. Still love the idea of a trade for Garrett Wilson at some point, but something along those lines. So I hope Shedeur Sanders never sniffs the field in Cleveland because I'm hoping that Dylan Gabriel. I'm liking what he's doing with protecting the football. Um, I think especially in that rain, especially in the wind, and with how well the defense is playing, you just had to make sure you didn't turn the ball over to allow the Dolphins to get some good field position, get some momentum, get back into the game. He didn't do it. Would I like to now see a game here at some point where he's tearing it up? I would love to see him tear it up. But with how bad the wide receivers are, I mean, that's going to be a really tough task. And he's not going to have but more than a few split seconds with those offensive tackles out there on the field. Or else he's going to have pass rushers in the backfield right after him. So that's the tough thing. About Judkins, I know what you said. 1.5 yard average per carry was what you were mentioning. But I think the other stat, I think what's more important about that is that I saw that I think it was like, and I might get the second part of these numbers wrong because I don't remember, but offhand, when he had like 83 or 84 rushing yards, 95 of those yards were yards after contact, right? He had more yards after contact
Look at that.
than he actually had rushing yards statistically. So absolutely insane because he was getting hit as soon as he touched the football. But Judkins has great contact balance. He's physical. He's a tough runner, and it's still working because of that. So thankfully, Judkins is an absolute beast. But you got to be able to run block better. I've tried to give this interior of the offensive line props that they can still run block. They're just not good pass protectors anymore. They didn't look like good run blockers in the last game, but Judkins still scored 3 touchdowns. And by the way, the Wildcat in the red zone looked very good. I know I was calling for Wildcat weeks ago. They finally did it, and it panned out. I know because of the slippery football, nearly got fumbled, but it still resulted in a touchdown. So I'd love to see a little bit more Wildcat.
The fantasy is desperate. Why not? Go for it.
It speeds it up, right? Why hand the ball off sometimes in situations where you can just snap it directly to the running back and it's quicker?
It happened. I mean, and to his credit, I know I'm kind of hard on him about the 1.5. Trust me, I love Junkins. Beyond glad he's here. So don't take that the wrong way by any stretch. And at the same time, for once, crazy enough, they had a lot of short fields to work with. Which anytime you have that situation, it's going to alter your stats a little bit. Even when you got a first and goal from the 3, and it takes you 4 times to get in there, that's an average of 4 rushes for 3 yards, right? So a lot of times things like that will skew your stats.
Yeah. Well, Vince, 3.5 games. I think you're safe. You just need 2 more wins.
So I don't bet. But yes, I think I'm safe. We will see.
I think you are safe. We'll see.
I'll
We
tell
got
you,
over half a season.
and this is how I'll wrap it up this week before we go to the high school thing. Honestly, guys, like if they do win this week, though, how sweet would that be? You would win in New England for the first time since 1992. That alone's a good feeling. You're going in on a 2-game win streak into the bye, and you're going into the bye week on a win with your rookie quarterback, who again would have won 2 straight. So a lot of cool things that could happen. It's just going to take a lot to happen because New England's playing the best football they have since Tom Brady's been there. And it's weird you said It's weird you said Cam Newton because it was actually Cam Newton. If you ever want to win a bet at a bar and say who was the first quarterback to take a snap after Tom Brady left, pretty sure it was Cam Newton.
Yeah, and speaking of Tom Brady, that's the other thing. I think I saw a stat. It was like through the first couple starts of their career, what 2 rookie quarterbacks have thrown for what 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, and it was Tom Brady and Dylan Gabriel. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is absolutely hilarious right now. And now going up against the Patriots, going back to, you know, the land of where Tom Brady was successful for so long. So we'll see if he can keep that streak going. There's going to be an interception at some point, but right now Dylan Gabriel's still protecting that football.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't throw many passes down 10 yards because no one's open to throw it to.
Yep. So
So high school football this weekend is going to be a blast. Let me tell you, Brunswick and Strongsville, one of the best rivalries out there. Your Keon Sports crew, Dominic Clearly, Brandon Marvel, Brandon Soderpunter, will call it for you. Your last week to watch on the Keon Sports YouTube channel. After that, we move over to NFHS for the playoffs. So, but check that out, classic rivalry. And then I myself will be with my guy there, Adam Mendoza, out in Hoban as St. Ed's visits Hoban. Matchup of 2 perennial powerhouses, multiple state championships. Going to be a fun weekend of high school football to wrap up this portion of the season before the real season begins the following weekend.
so for myself, Cole McDaniel, Vince McKee. Good chatting some NFL football. Of course, Vince gave you the update on high school football, what to look for this week. Make sure you take a look at all of our picks plus then all of those high school football recap articles on the website keonsports.com. Hit the subscribe button here on the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And a lot more to go with the NFL season, college football, and just because the regular season's wrapping up in high school football doesn't mean the coverage stops there. We still have a lot more to come. A lot of playoff football upcoming all the way into state championships the first weekend of December. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend.